The wind whistled across the dry plains of Wyoming as the sun dipped behind the rolling hills. The sky burned orange and gold, painting the land in the colors of fire and promise. Dust rose from the hooves of horses heading home, and the scent of leather, hay, and wood smoke filled the air. At the heart of that endless land stood the Whitaker Ranch, a place known for its strong horses, fine cattle, and an even stronger owner, Caleb Whitaker. He was a man molded by the land, broad-shouldered, calm as a quiet river, and known for his rare, slow smile that made folks forget he'd ever lost anything in life. But behind that smile lived a loneliness few saw. Caleb was a widower. His wife, Anna, had passed 5 winters ago, leaving him with 3 children and a ranch too big for one man to carry alone. That's when Evelyn Grace rode into his life. She arrived in a stagecoach that kicked up dust down the long road to town. She wasn't dressed like most women who came to the West. Her clothes were simple but proper, a soft blue dress and a hat that had seen better days. She stepped down with a small suitcase in hand, her eyes squinting against the sun, her heart heavy with memories of what she'd left behind. Evelyn wasn't running away. She was running toward something: freedom, peace, a chance to start over. Back east, she'd been known as the woman who couldn't bear children, the one her husband left after years of trying. The whispers had followed her everywhere she went: poor thing, useless in a house. So she sold what she had, packed her few belongings, and answered an ad for a schoolteacher in the small town of Willow Creek, Wyoming. The first time Caleb saw her, she was standing outside the schoolhouse, holding a stack of books and trying to calm his youngest boy, Ben, who was refusing to go inside. The boy, no older than 6, stood with his arms crossed and a stubborn tilt to his chin, a perfect mirror of his father. "Ben Whitaker," she said gently, "if you go inside, I'll let you be the one to ring the school bell." His eyes widened. "Really?" She smiled, her dimples showing for the first time. "Really?" Ben snatched her hand and ran inside without another word. Caleb, who had ridden into town to fetch supplies, had been watching from his horse. He tipped his hat as she turned to look at him. "Ma'am," he greeted. "Mr. Whitaker, I presume?" she said with a polite nod. "Your boy has a fine sense of mischief." Caleb chuckled. "He gets it honest." Their eyes met, his the deep brown of turned soil, hers a soft green that held both sorrow and kindness. There was something in her look that tugged at him, something fragile yet strong. He found himself lingering longer than he meant to, until one of the townsfolk called his name, breaking the spell. Over the next few months, Caleb found reasons to visit the schoolhouse. At first, he told himself it was to check on Ben's progress. Then it became to fix the door hinge, to deliver hay for the teacher's horse, to bring extra firewood before the snow came. Each time, Evelyn thanked him kindly, though she suspected his excuses. She began to look forward to those visits, the way he'd lean against the doorframe, hat in hand, the smell of the outdoors still clinging to him. One chilly afternoon, as she erased the chalkboard, she turned to find him standing quietly in the doorway. "Mr. Whitaker," she said, smiling. "You startled me." "Didn't mean to." He shifted his hat in his hands. "Thought I'd ask if you'd join us for supper tonight. The kids have been asking after you." Her heart skipped. "That's kind of you, but—" "Please," he said softly. It'd mean a lot to them. She hesitated only a moment before nodding. "All right." The Whitaker Ranch house was warm, alive with laughter and the smell of roasted chicken. Caleb's daughter, Molly, helped Evelyn with her coat, and even Ben, usually a handful, stayed on his best behavior. After supper, Caleb poured coffee while the children played by the fire. Evelyn sat quietly watching them, her heart aching in a way she hadn't felt in years. "You've got good kids," she said softly. "Thank you," he replied, his eyes following hers. "They miss having a woman around the house. Truth is, so do I." She looked up at him, startled. He smiled, faint and tired. "Don't mean nothin' improper, Miss Grace. Just sayin', it gets lonely sometimes. For all of us." Evelyn nodded, her fingers trembling slightly around the coffee cup. She understood loneliness better than anyone. As winter deepened, so did their bond. The town noticed how the cowboy and the schoolteacher seemed drawn to each other, though neither spoke it aloud. She helped his children with their letters. He fixed the schoolhouse roof after a snowstorm. Then one evening, as the snow fell thick and soft outside, Caleb walked her home from a town gathering. The night was quiet, the only sound the crunch of their boots and the whisper of falling flakes. "Evelyn," he said finally, his voice low, "I reckon you know I care for you." She stopped walking. Her heart thudded. "I know," she whispered, "and I care for you too." "But, Caleb," her breath caught, "there's something you need to know." He turned to face her, concern shadowing his brow. "I can't have children," she said, her voice barely above the wind. "The doctor told me years ago. It's why my husband left. I thought it was my fault for so long. I don't want you to think I can give you something I can't." The silence that followed was heavy. The snow gathered on her hat brim. She didn't dare look up. Then she heard him move. When she finally raised her eyes, Caleb stood before her, hat in hand, his expression tender. "Evelyn," he said quietly, "then God saved you for me." Her breath caught. "What?" He smiled, the kind that came from deep inside. "I've got 3 kids already. I don't need more. What I need is someone who can love them, and me, the way you do. Someone gentle, steady, and brave enough to face the world's meanness and still smile." Tears filled her eyes. "You mean that?" "I don't say things I don't mean, darlin'." He placed his hat back on his head, then reached for her gloved hand. "You're what this family's been praying for." And right there, under the falling snow, she wept, not from sadness, but from the kind of relief that heals old wounds. They married that spring, under a sky so blue it hurt to look at. The whole town turned out, cheering as Caleb lifted her onto his horse, the children riding ahead to the ranch, shouting with joy. Life wasn't perfect, no life on the frontier ever was, but it was good. Evelyn became not just a wife, but a mother in every way that mattered. She read stories by lamplight, bandaged scraped knees, and taught the children about the stars. One night, as the crickets sang outside, she sat by the fire with Caleb beside her. The children were asleep upstairs. "You ever miss the city?" he asked. "Not once," she said with a smile. "Everything I ever wanted is right here." He wrapped his arm around her shoulders, drawing her close. "You gave this house its heart back, Evelyn. And you," she whispered, "gave me mine." He kissed her then, slow, sure, and full of the kind of love that doesn't fade with time. Years later, folks would still tell their story, the schoolteacher who thought she wasn't enough and the cowboy who saw her as more than she ever dreamed. And when strangers asked Caleb how he knew she was the one, he'd grin and say, "She told me she couldn't have kids. I told her God must have known my hands were already full." Then he'd tip his hat toward the porch, where Evelyn sat with their children, his by blood.